Hello and welcome to the Game Master Studio. We're doing the recap for Darkhounds Season 2 today with a full Darkhounds cast in the house. And just going to be talking a bit, going over our thoughts and ideas from Season 2 and what we're looking forward to in Season 3. My name is Jerry, moderator for Game Master Studio, and of course participate in Darkhounds, playing as Tristan, the Storm Cleric. We can go around the table for introductions. We have JR playing
Mizr, Snowfang. Hello.
The Brah, Paladin, Barrel of Laughs.
Barrel of Laughs.
Jared, DM.F, the DM for the game.
That's me. I do the thing.
That stands for Dungeon Master.
And that stands for fucking crap.
Ashley playing Neriah Stonefury?
Yes.
That's the one.
Last name doesn't come up a lot, so. I was actually the other day trying to remember, because we don't have our own nameplates here anymore.
Yeah, they have kind of similar names with the whole like Snowfang and Stonefury kind of stuff.
And Stormmane. You got the...
Well, that's his nickname at least. But yeah, three of them definitely have the whole like, this word and that word.
And David playing Jorell Magnusson, who somehow managed to come up with a last name that is not, noun, verb, or whatever.
But both his names are pirated.
Yarp.
Yarp.
So we're here to talk about Season 2, which, just to recap kind of in everybody's minds, would start with being under quarantine at the Dragontail Guild after returning from the Nine Hells, rescuing Osric, picking up some items that developed more of their own storyline as the season went on, up through passing through the Feywild, meeting Gaia, and emerging in Lowwater on the Isle of Greylin. So that is the Season 2 clump that we are talking about before we start moving into Season 3. So really, first question on the list, which is what we're going to start off with, is what was your favorite moment in Season 2? As I said as we were talking in the pre-show, I think I had the feeling when I was thinking about this that everybody is going to have the same moment. Yeah. So I came up with a runner-up, but I want to at least let somebody else go first, just to see if we all did come up with the same moment.
I'm curious what you think everyone's same moment is going to be.
Well, I will let you know if somebody brings it up, and if they don't, then I will
bring it
sure.
up. Yeah. So what do you want to start with?
I don't know. Anybody want to volunteer to go first, or do we want to roll a die? All right, JR's volunteering.
Well, I mean, we covered a lot of distance. We covered a lot of Wrath, map-wise. But my favorite, because I'm a little bit biased and I happen to like dinosaurs, is everything that we did on Dino Island. There's so many great segments, from fights, from encounters, from meeting the first dragon in Wrath in, 3,000 years?
Yeah, over 2,000.
Over 2,000 years. Pretty impressive character in the Copper Knight. I loved how we saw that the dinosaurs started morphing into, other tribes, which added a whole different dynamic to it, because suddenly, we had to save them all. My favorite moment from Dino Island, it might be a little bit selfish, but it's a Mizr moment when he was eating some uncle.
That was the one that I figured everybody was going to Mizr
That
eats
is
uncle.
definitely the most talked about moment. I don't know why it didn't occur to me like the favorite moment. Yeah.
So
It's the most memeable moment.
Yeah.
that was one of Mizr's moments that was definitely a lot of fun and has gotten a lot of replay value, that's for sure, and a lot of laughs.
To the point where if we ever cross over with Gamebound and do the Darkhounds Quiplash that we were talking about doing with custom prompts, one of the ones I was planning to put in there was, no, Mizr, don't eat that, it's blank.
That would be funny. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to do that. We're working on setting that up.
That'd be awesome.
So I will actually go next, because I figured that Mizr eating uncle was going to be what everybody had for their favorite moment. And I also was going for stuff that just was really memorable, and in part because of how kind of off the wall it was, which is why the uncle thing was my first choice. And the second choice I came up with would be Mizr rescuing the sailors from the Kraken.
The Kraken almost came up. It was going to be with Captain Jack. He'll definitely get talked about later, because I love the interactions with Captain Jack. We seem like a group that Captain Jack can be friends with, which is kind of scary. So.
Despite the fact that you threw his crew overboard.
I'll save you to the Kraken with you. Yeah.
I'll get you off the boat. Into the
Mizr
Kraken's
has
maw.
good intentions.
Well, the road to hell was paved with good intentions.
And Akabar is leading the way.
So, other side of the table, we'll start with David.
Okay.
You had these questions in advance.
Doesn't mean I think about them. Favorite moment? I don't know. Well, since we're talking about humorous moments, I guess we'll go with Neriah setting the ship on fire.
That was pretty great.
Yeah, that was
Wasn't me.
What?
Oh my
I have
god!
no
The
idea.
ship
Neriah
caught
never
on
did that.
fire! I wasn't even there!
That was a crew person, I think.
Which, to this point, she's still gotten away with.
Yeah, no one has gotten to the
I
bottom
don't
of the
have
fire.
fire magic anymore.
Get rid of that spell, get rid of the evidence.
Season 2, episode
What?
8, if you want to go check it out. Ish.
And I don't think
10.
it's come up. I don't think you ever used it before or since.
I did use it before. I have not used it since. On purpose. And now I don't have it anymore. On purpose. I mean, what?
So what would you list as just your favorite kind of overall moment for season 2?
On a not so funny note, I think quite a few of the interactions we had as a group, one being where at least the three of us were all kind of like connected and using our
That
Mental
episode
connections
I
with
titled
our episodes.
Conference Call.
conference
Yeah.
call. Yeah. I
And
really
we
enjoyed
learned
that
that they
one.
got to connect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we kept trying to get Stormmane into it, but, well,
Ain't having it.
Yeah,
it was
Uh,
a little more difficult.
Well, that's going to get brought up later in the conversation because that has to do with some of those later questions on to at least get my side and perspective on it.
It's true.
So, what is one of your favorite PC moments?
Oh, well, before
of
we
season
go,
two?
I'm kind of
Yeah.
curious what your favorite
Oh,
moment
right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not a person.
No. Yeah, it's supposed
Of
to be
putting
Jared
together all the
Blast.
videos and everything, I mean, you
Yeah.
have it a lot more fresh in your mind, of course, in a whole different way. So
Yeah, I mean, there's...
His favorite moment is when he got a 360 camera that recorded and didn't give us all crap.
Yeah.
Yay, GoPro!
Did not shut down after 20 minutes.
That'd probably be my favorite
You
moment.
were really happy that weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can easily tell you my saddest moment of season 2 is when we lost that session.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
that stinks.
So probably my happiest moment would
So-
be
As a backstory for any of the audience that doesn't know about that, it was
The very first
session of
session,
season
yeah.
2. We sat down, we all played through all the stuff. We had an awesome
great
session.
We did.
Yeah.
It was really great.
Yeah.
And something happened with the camera and it didn't record any of it. We didn't even get audio on it. It was just everything was lost. We had to go back and replay it, and
It didn't work again.
it was still a good session, but it wasn't the same as what we had the first time around.
right.
And it was because, like, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've never tried to re-mimic
Yeah.
Oh,
a
it's
D&D
tough,
session
especially
again.
with role-playing,
I mean,
you know?
it's all ad lib and improv, I mean, at the
Yeah.
for the players at the table, and for me, like, a lot of it is still improving at the table myself.
Yeah.
And then also, I didn't want it to just kind of be trying to be a regurgitation of the same thing again. So, like, I
Yeah.
purposely tweaked how, like, I presented things and how certain things happened, so it was a different experience,
Yeah.
which wasn't necessarily worse, but again, the results were like, well, this is only like an 8 where we had a 10 before, kind of
Yeah.
thing. So,
Yeah.
so my favorite moment isn't even technically recorded because that session was like a really awesome. There was some really, and the thing that I liked most about it wasn't like what I did. It was the fact that you guys had some really nice
Oh, yeah, we came together in a
interaction,
way that
role
we
playing,
had-
group time,
Yeah.
which you got a little bit of that in the redo, but not nearly to the same depth or scale that you had the first time going through. And
that
that's
was a huge moment for us as a group.
yeah.
Yeah, it was,
So
yeah.
then that's something that I keep trying to get some more of in the game is like getting you guys moments to role play together
Yeah.
and kind of interconnect yourselves. Time where I can just sit back and go like, do it.
I would like to say that I actually, on some levels, appreciated the chance to kind of have a do-over on the session, because there are things I did the first time around that I didn't like. from the footage that was lost included Tristan getting into a big argument with Orion, and establishing Tristan's mentor as having passed away.
Yeah, that was a great role playing moment. That whole thing with Orion, which was I had forgotten that.
But yeah, but afterwards, I'm like, I don't know if I ran that quite the right way. Which, with what happened later, I realized that maybe I should have been doing more, because I went from Tristan tapping into his anger more into Tristan tapping into his regret.
Yeah.
And then his anger kind of becomes a point later in the season, so it would have been nice maybe to keep that for the consistency in the setup, but that's still just part of the character arc that Jared and I built for the game.
Yeah, I remember you totally catching me off guard with that too. Like you came at Orion, and I'm like, oh shit!
Oh yeah, there was tense in the air. I remember the tenseness in the air.
I'm just like, you just came at me with friggin' fangs out. Like, oh my god! Like I wasn't expecting him to just start spitting hate at friggin' Orion.
Yeah.
Like he came to hey bro, how you doing? You're like, fuck you, fuck your family, fuck your mother, fuck your grandmother. God damn it, burn in hell! Oh shit!
Let's have a talk.
You good, bro? Gotta go. You good?
There'll be cookies at the buffet. See ya.
They're drinking. I think you need one. Gotta go.
See, I actually I'm really sad the first one didn't get recorded because that's what I thought my best version of it was, because I actually had more
and you
emotion
were kind of
into it.
one of the big segments of the first go through, which you still did a good job in the second go through. You still had some of your moments, but overall, the whole role playing, the tavern scene. It was really the tavern scene. That was the big loss of it. We had some of the tavern scene a little bit, but it went from a 25-minute beautiful scene to 10 minutes of it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Didn't we do something like this last time that we did to recreate?
I felt the re-recording was just at least from my perspective, at least on my end, a little more forced.
And that's exactly what I was trying to avoid. I know these guys this was really good. I need to do it again, but you lose that passion of the in the moment kind of thing, and you're now I'm just trying to recite lines that I remember and
I want to do this cool thing again.
Yeah,
I'll make it cooler. No, it wasn't cool.
Cooler, yeah.
Yep.
It's fine.
So that was my sad moment. My favorite moment, probably
getting a camera that works.
From a non-story aspect, from a behind-the-scenes thing, getting a camera that actually isn't going to try to overheat itself after 20 minutes. It waits at least an hour and a half before it tries to overheat, but I can actually bypass it to get it to go 3 to 5 hours.
It gives us a lot of playtime. So
I've had to try to explain to several people. In fact, I'll tell you guys more about this when we're not recording. But I just recently did an interview with somebody from Veer, and that was one of the things that I talked about. Is I'm not only trying to get the software to do things that it's not really seems to be ready to do yet.
Yeah.
But even the hardware, I'm fighting the hardware. I'm fighting both sides of the 360 thing. Most of the cameras aren't really designed to go, or they don't tend to go more than 20 minutes of recording. We're doing 5-hour sessions. The software isn't really designed to build a 360 environment yet, so much as just support the filming of a 360 environment. But yet I'm trying to do that too. I'm fighting it on both ends.
Yeah, and
New frontiers.
I've brought up the game to people, and I've had them ask wait, how do you record? How do you physically get that recorded? How do you what type of technology do you use? What hardware? And all these questions. We're doing stuff that we're not supposed to be doing.
I work with a bunch of tech guys.
Aliens?
I work with a bunch of tech guys and programmers, and they're always very interested more in how we're doing it rather than the actual content.
Yeah, even the woman that I talked to from Veer was just wait, you're doing what?
Yeah.
And that's a site dedicated to 360 footage. And she's yeah, you're doing something that no one else is doing.
Yeah.
I'm oh, thank you.
So, favorite PC moment of season 2. Jared, you actually were the one that wrote up that question. So what's the difference between favorite moment of season 2 and favorite PC moment?
Well, my intent was favorite moment would be kind of more a favorite scene, a favorite and it could have been towards the game. It didn't have to necessarily be directed towards a player. It could have been or a character. It could have been directed towards a moment that I as a DM created. Oh, that was really cool when you had that moment where the giant skeleton was going to come down with the cleaver, and then all of a sudden we had that big anime moment where and all of a sudden the Dragon Knight's there and stuff. That's a cool just moment. Whereas a cool PC moment again would be kind of Neriah setting the ship on fire kind of deal. So we kind of mostly said PC moments during our favorite moments, but I mean, again, we could go back through and say, okay, well, what's another PC specific moment? Or...
I did really like, as you mentioned, the fight against the Colossus, or the Skeletal Colossus, where we had, everybody having to, work together as a team. Also considering the fact that it had really followed up on a point where we're looking at whether or not the team is going to fracture. And then, the threat kind of brings everyone back together, at least for the moment. They get their form back.
Yeah, I mean, like we had talked about after that session, like that whole scene, like the encounter, as it were, could have been spiced up a little bit by adding like some extra stuff into it. But it was already like, I think almost like a 20-minute encounter, so I didn't want to like bog it down and get it like really mechanic-y. Not to say that I couldn't still have flavored it up a little bit more, but like one of the things that I did like was that it was kind of a combat encounter, but it was also kind of a skill challenge.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different stuff going on. You guys were all kind of coming at it from different angles. Like you're trying to springboard yourself up onto it and go for the knee. You're like skill challenge, like Shadow of the Colossusing up to the top of it. Jorell's wrapping himself around like a knee to friggin' like brace himself and go for this, and Tristan's just kind of shatter.
Yeah, it was one epic war battle, that's for sure.
And even though you had like this extremely powerful NPC there, he's like, all I did, I'm just protecting my temple. Like, like you guys got this, right? Like, let's see what you got. Like, I'm not gonna save the day for you. Like, you're the heroes. Be the hero. I'm just gonna make sure my my toys don't get broken over here. So yeah, like I liked that scene. I that was one of the like a lot of scenes like I think through, but I don't see per se. Like I don't always. For someone that's like I'm very visual, like when I'm actually like from an artistic standpoint, but a lot of times when I'm thinking through things, I don't always see it in my head. But that moment was like such an anime kind of moment in my head that I'm just like, I kept thinking like Bleach, or like we're just, oh no, we're all gonna die, and then all of a sudden like just freaking Ichigo's just there with his sword stopping the thing, and then like the cool battle music slowly swells up. I'm like, yeah, I want a cool moment, like because I wanted to show how powerful this guy was to you guys without him stealing the show. So I thought that was a cool moment. Like, I'm just gonna stop this fucking building-sized sword, and now you guys can kill the bad guy.
I think one of my favorites was when we were trying to initially decide what we were gonna do next, and then Mizr is just like, "There's dinosaurs," and we were all like, "I guess we're gonna go see dinosaurs."
I mean, right from when the ship, when I saw the island, I went and set up camp and had a regular sword, like a makeshift lean-to Robinson Crusoe did.
Yeah, I definitely like that you like. Went from I can't remember if it was like that session or the end of the previous session, but like very recently, like right before this scene, basically it was like, Mizr will just do whatever you guys want to do.
Right,
like I'm just along for the ride. Like I got your back. You guys are friends. Like whatever you want to do, we'll do. There's dinosaurs. We're going there. Like, it went from like whatever you decide to like I'm deciding. There's dinosaurs. We got to go, and then being consistent with that the whole way. Like you guys are gonna be on the ship. Well, I'll be on the shore.
Well, it was more so we were conversing about whether to go to the Feywild or not, and Mizr was on board with the Feywild because he's like, well, I want to go home.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to go home. Neriah's like, I don't care. And Tristan's like, and so, we're pretty much about to start voting on the Feywild when all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, but the guy we're looking for is on a dinosaur island. And so Mizr's like,
Yep.
Well, hold up, Feywild, we're on a whole dinosaur island.
Yep.
Mizr is very impulsive.
It was awesome. I love it.
I think one of my favorite PC moments was when we actually showed up at I forget which guild it was, the last guild where we showed up after getting the gold tattoo. And realizing our prestige. I think that was the first time for me at least that Darkhounds, the prestige of the group in the world of Wrath really hit. I mean, when we walked in there, we were almost deity-like to these people.
Yeah, I mean, even the guild leader was just kind of like, or the guild master.
We haven't seen the gold tattoos for holy moly.
So I guess you're my boss.
I mean, when you actually consider the rumblings, the thoughts, dragons are back. I mean, that's what's starting to happen. So it's huge. And I love that whole moment when we went in there and just when they first saw the tattoos. I mean, it was kind of not one PC, but the whole group going in there. We'll see definitely a lot more of that, I'm sure.
Well, if we spend all our time out in the wilds, nobody's going to know what it is. Which is one of those things, too. Like, we've spent a lot of time, like, off in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So, third question on the list. How do you think your character has grown? I don't mind starting on this because I feel like I've had the most obvious arc through the character, which really kind of starts...
Physical and mental, really, with Tristan.
It also, starts right from the character concept.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started building the character, I kind of wanted to do the Tempest Cleric because I kind of wanted to do that idea of, the physical cleric, the martial cleric. Someone who kind of blurs the line between fighter and cleric. And also, I was putting him more heavily towards the fighter's side, then winding up in a party with a dedicated fighter and a dedicated paladin. The cleric is not going to be able to hold up. And like Tristan, I kind of hung on to that concept longer than I needed to. Yeah. Trying to push in and do that. And then the character became like more and more about being, stubborn, everything, throwing the remove curse over and over, It may hurt me, but it hurts the Solteris as well.
Ooh, you called it by its name.
It has a name.
You're starting to humanize it a bit more.
Tristan, on the other hand, you'll notice has not.
Yeah.
And now I lost my train of thought. But yeah, and as he pushed through that, and stubbornly hung on to his ideals and his anger, and it wasn't making things better, but the character was also refusing to see that.
Yeah.
I had several conversations with Jared away from the games about where the character was and where we were going to go with it.
I had a couple with me too, and some of them. You were in turmoil for a while.
And I also did like journal logs. Like, here's from the point of view of the character what's going on. Yeah. Especially with the conference call, as it were. Like I said, we'd be coming back to that. Like, from the character's point of view, he can hear, like, Tristan can hear half the conversation. Even though he's pretending like he doesn't care what's going on. And on the inside, he's like, so who's in control? Them or the items? Mm-hmm. And, like, are they kind of now becoming this like, am I alone? Am I traveling with enemies now?
Yeah.
And because that's a lot of the mindset that he's been in. And there's a lot of, like, black and white.
Well, they came from, pretty negative...
Right.
I mean, really, we got them in very negative situations with very negative connotations. I mean, I thought it was demon at some level. I thought it was going to be a demon, and that's why I refused to actually give it a sentience and made it more of a toy in the beginning.
And then Jared and I talked more. There was the discussion of the possibility of Tristan leaving and staying in Tegan, because he'd come from being out in the wild and all of this divide that he felt like he was seeing, and there was the Jorell and Mizr lashing out at him after the revelation of what had happened with the gods and all that, and then he walks out of that straight to where he's like worshipped as a hero. It's like, oh wow, I can stick with them and kind of be worried that somebody's going to put a knife in my back, or I could stay here and be a god. Like, I will be the hotshot celebrity. So Jared and I had to talk about that, and it was a couple of weeks that we went over it and revisited it and tried to figure out what to do, because I didn't necessarily want to leave Tristan behind, but I also felt that he wouldn't want to continue on.
Yeah, we came up, I'm like, okay, well, these are like the three different kind of scenarios that I see we could do if you wanted to kind of tag Tristan out for a little while. So it was like, okay, we could do this, or this, but it's your choice. You decide if you want him to leave, and you decide, what we're gonna do from there. So it was kind of up to him, but I gave him some options.
We also had the idea of discussing it that if I decided to leave, then season 2 would end with you guys going to the Feywild, Tristan coming in and saying, no, I'm not going with you guys, I'm staying here, best of luck. I, the player, would get up and leave the room, and that's where season 2 would end.
Yeah, big cliffhanger, which from a series wise, I was like kind of excited about, like, that would be an awesome cliffhanger for like season 2, like friggin' like, oh my god, like, Tristan left, Jerry left the room, what's going on? Oh Jesus, season 3, where are you? But of course, then I'm like, but from a D&D game aspect, I'm like, that could be rough.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we discussed possibilities of bringing in a new character, having a parallel game going on.
Having him just basically run NPCs for a little while. Yeah. come
But
up
ultimately,
with
we came up
something.
with the idea to really change and embrace, to go for the more clerical side, to have that divine intervention, to really have the character have to learn that, your anger, your stubbornness is not fixing things. And then,
I'm sure that's going to morph a little bit now that you're following CERN.
Yeah,
Anger
and-
leads to hate.
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
made a difference between.
And he was so mired into that already that he couldn't get out on his own.
Yeah.
And what's funny too is like in game, you guys saw that like I handed him my phone and there was a thing that he read, like his dream sequence, his little like CERN intervention. Like that's actually going to be like a little like cutscene that I'm going to add into the video. So when the video's finally out, you can actually see what was said to him for his little intervention. But yeah, it basically was just like like only together will you succeed. That kind of thing. So.
Basically, the CERN kindly saying, "Get your head out of your ass and see
Yeah,
what you have
yeah.
around you."
Some
Let
tough
go
love.
of your hatred.
Yeah. These are not the drugs you're looking for.
Leave Tempest behind. Have a muffin.
So I took up a lot of time there talking about my character
fine.
growth.
Points.
So character growth for, let's do Neriah, because I feel like they already did
Neriah's
first shots.
so hard. Neriah is one of my hardest characters I've played. And again, Jared and I have talked a lot, and Jared's worked really hard to try and get me into the game. It's hard because she doesn't have a, like, I guess a religious,
Yeah, I was gonna say she doesn't.
connection.
Yeah, like right now it's easy for the other players because there's a strong religious tie in one
Yeah.
way, shape, or form or the other. Like,
Yeah.
is Jorell like a cleric or super religious? No, but he has the strong tie to like the understanding of the cosmology and and the cosmos
Pantheon
and the
definitely
gods
is
and the pantheon
huge.
and Gaia and the Feywild specifically, which has been a strong current tie as well. Obviously we have a cleric easily tied into the the pantheon, a paladin easily tied into the pantheon. They're going to instantly care. Jorell already by proxy is going to care because of like the cause and effect and his experience and background. Neriah is just like, I'm just the human fighter over here. They don't really know like what's going on. And then there's also been like on Dino Island, there's a lot of conversations that you were excluded from.
Yeah,
So like
exactly,
you've
yeah.
been literally
Range
excluded
barriers
from a
and
lot
time.
of the story and
Right.
role playing and conversation points. So
Yeah.
Tongues saved a little bit of that, but
Yeah.
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 Oh, I was
Only so much
I was
I
so
can do.
tempted to just drop a shatter on the Raptors, Jorell, and Mizr all at the same time.
Yeah, so I mean, so in that respect, that's
They're still
been-
enemies, right?
That's been really hard. I think fighters in general for me are really hard. I always tend to play them really stoic, and I'm not sure why. I always feel like I'm
That's a
letting you
good one
guys
for Neriah.
down. on,
Neriah
like,
really
the
is
role-playing.
stoic.
Yeah,
She's
is,
our rock. I
and-
kind of see her like her as our Agatha.
Yeah.
She really is just our
Yeah,
rock.
like you guys can't make a decision, so she's just gonna
Oh,
go.
I
She's
thought you
gonna
meant like
kick
she's
in the
our
door.
Yeah.
That's right.
What's interesting too, because because of Neriah, then you kind of like changed up within one of the other campaigns you're playing, like Vespera, and now you're like, I really like her,
Yeah.
also stoic, but different character, and I
Yeah.
feel like you're really trying to now separate the two characters because you're like,
Yeah.
well, I could easily play like this, but it wouldn't fit everything I've built into her so far.
Right, yeah. So like Jared and I have come up with a few things, so I'm looking forward to season 3. Character building wise, I hope.
yeah, I mean,
Next question.
But
Look forward to season 3 is next question.
sorry. I skipped ahead. But yeah, I mean, I think I've had a few moments where I've been able to do a few things, and then you've given me tools just to be a little more standout-ish. than,
yeah.
like-
I mean, for you, I think like for how your character has grown during season 2 is like we've talked about behind the scenes is. I think even though it's not seen per se, but like how you're perceiving or how you plan on like your thought process for her
Yeah.
is how she basically sees the party.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
even though you don't see a lot of like how she feels and sees towards the party, you have a set of
Yeah.
how she feels
Yeah,
and sees towards
I
the
do.
party. Like
Yeah.
so you have like the brother and the awkward grumpy man, like kind of like stuff
Yeah.
like that. So like you have a picture for Neriah's mind
Yeah, I do.
of how she sees the party in various forms, You know, so I mean, I won't get into that because that will come more into like the role playing down the
Yeah,
road.
right.
But
For
that
Neriah-
is something that how your character has grown.
Yeah.
Like you do
Yeah.
see them as
Yeah.
like this is your surrogate family.
Yes.
For
exactly.
Neriah's growth, I mean, I didn't even think of it for the PC moments earlier, but one of my favorite interactions was actually Mizr's and Neriah's one of the first that we did together.
Yeah.
Was when you first realized that Malok, I forgot the name now.
Maluk.
Maluk?
Yeah.
When you saw that picture and went rage,
Mhm,
like real
yeah,
rage. That
that's
was
right,
the
yeah.
first time Mizr's ever seen that stoic get broken.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit,
Yeah.
something's going down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
and
was
Mizr
awesome.
had your back right there because it
Right.
was just that genuine concern,
Yeah.
which that was a really good moment.
Yeah, it was. Pretty sure.
So talk about Mizr.
Oh,
How do you think Mizr's grown and developed through season 2?
His hair's gotten a little
He's
longer, a little
grown-
dirtier, maybe some.
Well, he's grown in a
He's
much different way
changing.
from me.
Definitely changing.
I mean, as one thing that I'm sure people have heard, you know, you talk to Jared a lot, you talk to Jared a lot. I haven't. I've been kind of in turmoil with Mizr. It seems like every time that we get a chance to have that one-on-one, something happens.
I'm always you can
Um,
always Facebook message me.
It's true. That's true.
I mean, that's how they talk
Yeah.
to me about their characters most of the
You know,
time.
Yeah.
for Mizr, it's like somewhere. I mean, during Dino Island, when he found out that Maliki was dead, the forest god is dead, the way the Pantheon is, Cern's there. It was almost like that moment when playing Final Fantasy 1 when the world finally opens up and you get out of that middle section. You're like, holy shit, there's a lot more to this game. You know, to really date myself.
Most
but
Final
Mizr-
Fantasies, really.
Mizr's in the same way right now. I have no idea where he's going to grow or where he's going to go. I have a couple different paths that I think could happen now. You know, maybe even cross-classing away from Paladin. Who knows? But the fact that those options are there is a huge growth. I know the opportunities are there. I haven't maybe embraced them as much, but I think that'll be coming as well.
I think there's been some interesting development with Mizr.
And he's
Because
definitely getting a little bit darker, I feel. Not a lot.
well,
but,
for a while he was getting to be kind of the screwball.
Yep.
You know, the kind of goofy comic relief type. You know, and you see that through the ship ride, through the stuff on the
All
island.
the way up until you guys meet the Copper Champion. Like, I mean, you're like, Uncle. You
And
know,
then-
like,
and
just
then you had
moments before.
And then you
basically.
had the snapback of, you know, where now Mizr is hurt and angry, and all of a sudden the
Which doesn't
happy-go-lucky
happen.
guy is very dark.
Yeah.
And it adds that definite realism to it in that, you know, yeah, he screws around, but he has feelings, too.
Oh, yeah.
He's a person.
Yeah.
Um,
And that can be so tough. Again, I think I said it at the last recap for session 1. It's tough to play an animal character and give it that humanity.
Yeah.
You know, at the
Yeah,
end
I
of the
think
day,
you've done
I'm
a good
friggin'
job
bear.
with him, and
Yeah.
you know how he's been kind of very much a free spirit.
Yeah, well, it's definitely unique for Brah too. From all the other Brah that I've heard of people
Yeah.
playing, I played mine different.
Yeah. But I also think it also helped add a lot of weight to that moment of realization. The
Oh,
fact
yeah.
that you went from like, ha ha ha, everything's great to like, what?
Yeah. Holy shit.
You know, because
what?
like for like a
What
lot of
the-
you know your everyday average role played character where that are kind of like already walking just this kind of neutral-ish line of,
Yeah.
of demeanor. The whole what, you know, like kind of like pseudo, you know, kind of a serious moment, but like whatever, I have serious moments all the time. But when you're always wee to just what,
Right.
you know,
Oh,
there's
yeah,
a
that was
huge
that wake up.
huge gap in those outward demeanors and
And
attitudes.
Mizr's in turmoil. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff that he's dealing with regarding that. So.
It's interesting that like with this game particularly, like you know, with a 2 characters, 3 characters, 4 characters, all your characters have a lot of internal things going on, and like I've definitely played games where like that's a thing that you see randomly, like at any given time, like okay, well this person's got some stuff going on, this person's got some stuff going on. And it wasn't like an intentional thing to try to put you guys all in this internal turmoil. You know, it's just kind of like the way the game has gone and the way that you guys are like really putting yourselves into the character and how you're role playing it and making the decisions that you're making. You know, it's no one thing, but you're basically all in like this deep turmoil at almost any given time. Like Tristan's starting to come out of his now. You know what I mean? But like
Mizr starts to go into
I
his
think
more.
Neriah's, as you're coming out, Neriah's actually starting to go in. You know, like Mizr's been in for a little while. Jorell's still trying to just find his footing all over the place. You know what I mean? So like,
I think a good chunk of that is the camera. We
Absolutely.
can't be doing all the side stuff, so you're thinking, well, how does my character feel about this? What's going on?
Wait,
You're
we've
not
been on
like
camera this whole time?
you're not like it's not like, oh yeah, I got to talk to JR about the movie we went to see. It was like, no, this is
Yeah.
I have to be in character. I have to be on all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
how am I thinking? How do I feel about this?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, everyone daydreams and stuff, but I'll daydream and I find myself going to what would Mizr do in this situation? How am I going to handle this? I've gone back to the conversation where I first confronted Tristan after finding out, and I mean, I wish, probably a dozen different times. I'm like, I could have redone that so much better if I had a chance to do it again. That scene is one of my favorite interactions, but also one of my biggest regretted interactions. Like, I think I've really
We've talked about it a couple
missed
times.
a lot of opportunities there for
Away from
great
camp.
role playing.
I thought it was interesting too because like Mizr's first thing was to go after me or go after Jorell. Like,
Oh yeah,
the
well,
first
I
thing
was
is, like,
lashing out because Jorell and Mizr have a connection that Mizr didn't have with anyone else because of the language barriers, because of the Fae, because of that attachment to my reality, which was not Vrath. It was the Fae. Well, not the world that we were in, the Fae.
Yeah.
And as you said, Mizr being very childlike, his first thought would look at the only other person in the room who would have already known this, who didn't say anything. It would just been like,
Yeah.
to feel that moment of just
And
like,
that was him just lashing out. And I wish I had done it a little bit better and a little bit harder, to be honest. I think that whole scene could have been a lot different role-playing wise.
It's funny because like I've heard that specific moment. I've heard from a couple, several of you, and about how like seemed like there was regrets about the moment. And at first it seemed like you kind of regretted that you lashed out at Tristan and you came at him so hard.
Yeah.
But to me, you're like, oh well, I feel like I overreacted. I'm like. But a character, like a person, would overreact in that moment. Like that was the thing that I really liked about that moment. Like I just didn't like that, like Tristan / even Jerry, because you guys came at Tristan so hard. Like even Jerry kind of like felt some of the impact of that.
For me and for Mizr, that's not. I don't like that kind of conflict usually. I am more that fun-loving, easygoing kind of character. So I kind of regret how that went down as well because I know that Jerry, as a player, actual person, I think felt a little bit attacked that day too. And that wasn't the case. That was just me trying to role play and
right, yeah.
Only
And
because I
doing it a little bit
hate you.
well, yeah, like I definitely don't. I hate that Jerry felt like that you guys again came at Tristan so hard that like it spilled over into almost being absorbed, to kind of being absorbed by Jerry too. But the thing that I did like about that was like the raw, like almost purity of like how you reacted to that. See, like. Because it's never too late for because you make mistakes, you lash out in in anger and in emotional moments. You're gonna lash out at people, but then you turn around and you say, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like I was having a bad day. This was this was a big piece of news," and you can repair those bonds. You don't have to keep rolling with that. Like a real person would go back and fix that, or could go back and fix that moment. I'm sorry, I was having a bad day. I didn't mean to lash out at you. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't anything that you did. I apologize. Or try to make amends in other ways, and that's exactly what your characters can do. Instead of like, oh well, I lashed out at Tristan, so I guess we're enemies now.
We kind of discussed that too, because and it was also like, well, would Mizr apologize? And it was kind of like, actually, I think he'd more try to like, let's sweep this under the rug, pretend it never happened.
Right.
Well, he very quickly went off because now he had a positive idea. Let's bring the gods back, and that really hasn't come up again because he doesn't really believe that can happen. That was just how he was trying to get through the moments. We can do it.
We still haven't talked about how Jorell has grown.
No, we have not. The grumpy old man just getting a little bit older.
But
A little more grumpy.
Getting a little more meat on your bones.
it's funny because I partially feel that like either Jared doesn't care or Jared really trusts me because we don't really talk about my characters. More so, I just say this is what's going to happen with Jorell. Like I'll keep digging into his backstory and keep throwing it. And Jared goes, cool. He's just like, whatever, go with it.
I can tell you from experience with working with Jared, it's not that he doesn't care.
Lots of players to do that.
Yeah.
Well, so I think
The
it's
more you do, the less I have to.
I think it's not so much how much Jorell has grown. It's more so it's like kind of like how much more he's kind of revealing about who he is. Because I was intentionally, I don't know how much it was noticed, but I was intentionally like referring to you to the characters less by their names, more about their class. For them at first, especially at first, kind of like because Jorell's he doesn't want to connect with anybody.
Yeah.
He already witnessed like one party of people he'd like traveled with for 30 years die
And then
in front of
thousands
him.
of years with that last image burning.
Yeah, just like watching that slowly happen, and it's just like he doesn't want to connect anymore. It's like, but at the same time, he wakes up in this world that he doesn't recognize. There's walking, talking bears that it's like this. So in
Dragons
his
are
mind, he's
gone.
like, this isn't real. This doesn't make sense to him. So he obviously must be still in some kind of a dream.
Yep.
So I've kind of been like intentionally playing him more aloof and more just like, I don't care, whatever you're doing, what kind of thing.
Like when you decided to fight a T-Rex.
Yeah, it's just like, cool.
Which has a
Paladin in the
yeah.
party, cleric in the party, fighter in the party. I'm the druid. I'm gonna go punch this T-Rex in the
Well, the
face.
funniest part
I'm
of
the
that
wrestler.
was you two stay back, and Neriah and I are just
We're like,
okay.
what?
You,
Alright.
you crazy
we?
bastard.
I know. We both were like,
You know, there's that
I don't
moment when you went into the
know
bushes and we're
what
like,
we do.
do we listen?
And that
a
was
great
kind of the
moment.
thing. It's like Jorell is like intentionally up until this point, up until the big reveal, had been mostly just like he's trying to wake up because none of this is right, none of this makes sense, and for someone who has as much experience and as much time and as much traveled through, and as Jared and I talked about, it's the world of Wrath now versus the world that Jorell was part of. His was more of like like as we talked about, essentially just a standard D&D world.
Yeah, you're from a time where like dragons were commonplace and it wasn't a big deal.
And gnomes were around.
Yeah,
And-
exactly.
There
Like,
wasn't
you're
such racism.
kind of
for
your like, I mean, obviously different in Wrath is Wrath, but like at the same time, very much more your standard D&D world where Wrath is very. I mean, obviously it's a D&D world, but like, it has a lot of unique
Wrath is very
aspects to it in
Yeah.
present day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just so. And he doesn't have the powers that he should have, and it doesn't make sense as to why. So all of that's just been part of his, less of like his character growing and more of just like trying to piece together what's going on. Because, I think it came down to like I stopped for a moment. I was like, wait, were Brah around back then? And Jared's like, no, they're not. I'm like, all the more reason why Jorell would just be like, what the?
Yep.
I'm talking to a bear. This is fine. Whatever. Okay, that's cool.
Which also means, like, as far as Jorell knows, Mizr's unique. At least up until
I
Are
saw
you
Oh,
some
yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
werebear stuck in hybrid form?
That's right.
Yeah, it's
You're
just
cursed, clearly.
nothing made sense. So it was like the same thing.
I
Kind
have a
of
remove curse.
it was kind of like the reveal too, where name dropping, gods. It's like, wait a second. It's like something that was like, why would that be part of my dream? Either something important's going on, or everything you're telling me actually has been happening, and this doesn't make sense. And it was kind of like, that's why, he was out there pacing. He's like, he's trying to be like, okay, if this is real, then what's going on? Well, how can this be? This doesn't make sense why this is real.
Your staff also got more power recently, right?
Yeah,
Within the last few episodes. I don't remember exactly when that happened, but I feel like that was a big growth moment for Jorell as well, because that was one of those moments where like, oh, this is real. I am real.
It basically,
I am
like,
getting my
had
power back.
The equivalent
I
of
am
like
growing.
it twitching during the whole like pseudo fight scene that you had in the temple, but it really woke up when he entered the Fae.
And yeah, that's kind of like the idea is as well. He basically went. He buried his love, and then he stuck the staff in the ground, treed it, and just went.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's kind of so he was waking up, no tree, new surroundings, everything. It's like so he was just kind of like flabbergasted. Of course, his first interaction with this one is like he's out. He was out with you, but we went to a shopkeep. Something about like elves came up.
Yeah.
And the first thing that
time
happens
the
is
racism piece
is
happened.
him and the shopkeep both like try to like knock Jorell's like, whoa, okay, who are you to think like you're better than anybody?
Yep.
And he still has that like high level adventurer mindset, and he's likely not ever going to lose that, but he's just more so like raring to get it back.
Yeah.
He's impatient because of that, and I'm playing that like he's trying to be more patient with that, but at the same time he's like, but
Damn it.
just
Yeah, I see Jorell's growth as just being more of like like discovery. You know what I mean? Like, and also like again like the realization of like, okay, this is real, this is happening. Trying to find his footing in the the world and like where he is now. And I also see some of his growth as like the. Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is like just him starting, and even after the T-Rex, it didn't really seem like it hit home. But now it feels like now having met Gaia was like a big
Yeah.
trigger for him to like, okay, this is real, but also trying to like realize like I'm not as strong as I used to be. Like, so his growth is more realizations. You know, where like a lot of people have, you know, like a lot of the other characters. I mean, obviously you're all growing in power. That's, you know, relevant. But like, you know, a lot of your character growths are, you know, like learning new things. You know, like kind of navigating these emotional turmoils, which Jorell is dealing with, but more in the sense of like, you know, self-discovery of like, but it's like a reverse self-discovery again, kind
It's
of
like
thing.
what
Like,
he
I'm
doesn't
discovering
have
that I
anymore.
don't have this. I'm realizing that dragons aren't around. Okay, apparently there's one back. So are they back or are they not back? Okay, so you're saying that they're going to be coming back, but they've been gone for a while. So that's also an extra, like, okay, when I left, dragons were here. I come back, dragons aren't here. But now apparently they're coming back. So, like, I'm like, it's like double limboed. You know what I mean? Like, they're here. They're gone. They're coming back. What the fuck's going on? Make up your mind, would you?
And I did enjoy that like moment for everybody, really. I think, I guess we'll say, yeah, PC-wise, when we all got branded, we all show up at the Copper Guild, and each of us deal with it in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, Tristan has this kind of like, almost like, respect. It's nice to feel respected again, you know, being with these yokels kind of thing. And, you know, Mizr's just like, oh, cool, like, more free stuff, you know.
Neriah sat back and enjoyed the attention that she was getting. She was like, "Oh yeah, I'll tell you about some
Neriah was-
stories." And
was
like,
the
"Oh,
celebrity.
free ale sounds good." Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, she got to just suck up the celebrity moment.
And then Jorell walks in just like, okay, whatever, I don't care. It's like, you know, it's like, oh, gold, okay, fine. You're coming with me. We have more important things to do. This ranking system means nothing to him. It's like,
Oh, you want to fawn over my every need? Well, I've been there, done that. Let's get some shit done.
especially considering that happened just after his revelation of just like, we need to do something. We need a direction. We need to do more than just piddle paddling around.
Yeah, that was right after like we need to bring the gods back. We got to fix some shit.
So next one is, what do you think you're most looking forward to in season 3? We're kind of on a roll with what Jorell's looking at. So do you want to start off with what you're looking forward to in season 3, David?
A place where elves and humans are getting along. So we're starting off, and it's going to be great.
Place where everybody knows your name.
No, that's apparently all the Druid circles. Druid circle. Hey, Jorell Magnusson, how do we know? Apparently this doesn't work anymore, but this does. No, yeah, that's, I guess, the new city. Just see what that looks like. See how that goes. See, you know, seeing finally people like, oh, look, elves I can finally talk to without somebody looking over my shoulder. But I also think that, you know, I feel as though even Jorell's noticed that he's kind of like relaxed a little bit. Because when you talked about how, like, you know, was Tristan going to come or not, you know, I was actually, even before that session, thinking, like, I wonder if Jerry's, like, going to do something drastic with Tristan. Because I was sitting there, I was like, you know, that would be a perfect dramatic moment for something like that. So there's that, and I loved how it was kind of like happened. It's like, we were all ready, and then there was, like, Tristan. He was like, was Tristan coming? And it was, like, a moment of just, like, well, if he doesn't, Jorell doesn't care.
Yeah. I mean, that was sitting on the edge of my seat, not metagaming that because we had some conversations as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just like, well, is Tristan coming? Because that would be interesting from a player standpoint and a storyteller and a fellow DM standpoint myself. I was like, that would be some fun storytelling. While at the same time going, but that would be tricky to kind of like...
Yeah, but I mean, again, like Jerry and I had talked about, like these are ways we could handle it. Like we had systems in place if that was the route we decided to take. Yeah. And even though I didn't think it was something that Jerry would do to me, I even in that moment I was just like, I'm gonna laugh my ass off if like at the last second Jerry's like, you know what? No, I'm not going. I'm like, so like even I was just like, I'm 99.999% sure that this is what's happening. This is what we talked about happening. But it technically hasn't happened yet. So there's always that chance that when it's that moment, for whatever the way the wind's blowing, whatever's going on, I mean, you know, no, I'm not going to go. Okay. Well, I mean, we talked about it. I'm like, you would have surprised me in that moment, but it's, you know, it wouldn't have been anything that we couldn't have handled or dealt with. It just would have been like, holy shit, oh, you're keeping me on my toes now. I see how it is.
But yeah, I'm really interested in just kind of like seeing that, because now, like, basically there's like a humility with Tristan of just like, okay, I'm now attached to this party. I feel like he's like, I'm now attached to this party. we'll just see where it goes, kind of thing. And then of course these two are more focused in what they're doing, and yeah, so it's kind of like I'm interested to see like where that goes, because Jorell's pretty much had his like next step. He's like he's been to the Feywild, he's talked to Guy, he's got updated. He's like,
yeah, that was a huge item off your bucket list. You know,
yeah, it's like okay, finally I'm back. How's it going? It's been 3,000 years apparently. How's the tree? I was almost anticipating you to like leave a little clue of like, yeah, we probably should come back and deal with the tree kind of thing, like kind of like a.
I feel like you guys have a lot on your plate already.
But yeah, it's just so it's like that was kind of thing. Now Jorell's like, okay, all right, fine. Well, we'll go do these other errands. Druid circles are next on my list, kind of thing. It's like when it's the moment I start tripping over him, it's like I'm gonna go talk. But
I mean, obviously, like the train's directed in this this section, but there's still like there's actually lots of little hanging threads all over the place. Still, like there's stuff that sometimes I hear you guys bring up, like in reminiscing. That I'm not going to say specifically because I don't want to like point out some of the random dangling threads, but like I hear you guys say certain things and I'm just like, you guys never really pulled on that thread.
Yeah, we all have our list.
And I understand that like not a lot of opportunities have been
given.
given to you guys to pull on some of those threads. So I'm not I'm not saying like why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that, but like it's still like there are a lot of little dangling threads all over the place. And some of them are intentional little threads, so like there's going to be big payoffs later. You know what I mean? There's other things that are just kind of in there that like, well, it's a path you, if you wanted to force to pursue, could be pursued. But again, the train's kind of heading in this direction, and there's going to be forks in the road. Obviously, you know, it's not a monorail, but but
and that's one of my oldest to-do items.
I can't wait for that moment where just Mizr and Neriah just show up, find the guy, and they're just like, hey, buddy, we're gonna go for a walk.
We're gonna go for a little walk. Yep.
Neriah says, hey, you want to go for a walk? He's like, yeah, sure. And then Mizr comes around the corner, big fur coat, big hat, diamond cane. Like, we go to talk!
That's right.
I'll walk with a limp because I'm a goddamn pimp.
Walking right into a room, sitting down in a chair. There's Jorell and Tristan on either side. It's like, oh, we're just here to keep you alive so the pain lasts longer.
All of a sudden, out of nowhere, he has this like little like imp dude like, baby powder, baby powder.
Sounds like Ashley's broken a little bit right now.
Yeah, she's looking forward to that meeting. Tristan,
so
heal.
we have to go to JR for the next. What are you looking forward to in season 3?
Group stuff, actually. Meaning, I saw a little bit. We did it a couple times where, especially with the Colossus fight, where we started to work together, and somebody had mentioned, take a superhero equip, but the fastball special, and being able to start doing things as a group. I'm looking forward to a lot more of that because Mizr has those kind of abilities to throw or to help, and I really think that we could pull off some pretty cool duo, trio type combos with our group that I
that's one of my
think
favorite
as we
things.
connect more will start happening.
I think I like about like when you start having a group that's not just playing as a group together, but playing the same characters in a campaign for a long time. It's just like starting to come up with the like, okay, so combo 3, okay, boom, whole person, okay, smite 3, boom, you know what I mean? Like just like you do this, you do that, and start seeing like that well-oiled machine in combat kind of start to come together, which comes from like one part just obviously playing together and combating a bunch together, but also like some of it depending on what you want to do. If you have an idea in your head, talking a little bit about talking it out a little bit out of game. So it's like, hey, well, I could probably do this thing where I bet Jared would let me freaking like throw Neriah, and freaking like, and then she's got that fucking crazy shatter blade. She could probably like fucking turn it into like a drill and just go straight through a motherfucker or something like that. You know what I mean?
I was thinking with the Colossus, Neriah, come at me, and then just how high could we send her up there?
We need to do
a lot of those kind of things.
Trebuchets, just put Neriah into and just launch her, and then she just goes armored like.
That's right.
Well, he's been doing like the slinky thing. He could just.
That's right. Mini trebuchet. Yep.
That's not actually me.
Spike up, Neriah, and then she'll stick to anything we shoot her at, like a spike ball there.
Have you seen Gurren Lagann, the anime? Oh, I think it was on Netflix. I don't know if it still is, but my favorite anime of all time. It's actually where this is from, though normally it's a Red Flame. But like in that one of their big like reoccurring attack thing is actually like turning into like a drill. Like it's like a mech kind of anime, but it's very Dragon Ball Z-ish kind of mech.
Well, theirs is the drill that will pierce the heavens.
Yes. So I mean, not gonna tangent too long, but that's what I keep seeing in my head now. It's just like, like the Shatter Blade, just like kind of basically just creating this big drill thing while just Neriah just like spinning, boom, like it's right through a mountain or something.
There's gonna be a lot of cool, at least from Mizr, moments where I'm like, okay, how can I combo this and do something cooler?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I'm definitely looking forward to season 3.
So Ashley seems to have recovered from her laughing spell.
Okay. It's okay. Well, like I said before, I have a few things that just character role-play growth-wise, because I haven't been a very strong role player in this game, which is killing me on the inside.
And it has been very like season 2 especially was very role-play heavy.
Yeah,
so.
and I'm just so stoic in this character. It's so hard. But I have a few things that are hopefully coming up soon, and I don't know. You don't know.
She's looking forward to more growth with Neriah.
Yeah.
For me, for season 3, I've been with Wrath since the beginning, the first Wrath game, which was Contagion and started in Lowwater, which is where we're now wound up here. You 3 haven't necessarily seen all the little nods and stuff that Jared has been throwing into the game. That's, we've done a lot of stuff, like, visiting Tegan, going to Fort Gradamir, and going through the Feywild, meeting Gaia. That's all like referencing stuff that's happened in other games. There's some stuff we still haven't hit, like Well Edge, Witch Creek, the Island of Light.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna just take you on a tour of Wrath.
Right. But it's still it's cool to see, like, at least for me, with all the little in jokes and stuff, and former characters showing up. And now for season 3, it's like, okay, in the last session it was you're going to the Land of the Dead, which we have in past games of Wrath. In most of them, the Land of the Dead gets brought up solely as like a myth. And then we had one game where we were actually trying to find the Land of the Dead and going through all sorts of hell, and it kind of was left unresolved.
Yeah, that game just kind of fell apart, unfortunately. Just like player and scheduling wise kind of thing. So.
But it worked now in a way, because it's like, oh, well, these characters were headed to find the Land of the Dead. They think they actually know where it was, and they disappeared off into the nothing.
Yeah.
Adding to, these people, like, everybody's gone looking for the Land of the Dead, hasn't come back. So now we're on the big quest to do what nobody else has done before.
Yeah.
These are people who, kicked the crap out of Rakasha and ran them off, and liberated these towns on their own and all this, and they couldn't handle it. How are we going to
all these stories are online in a past historical archive, which you should definitely check out.
Wrath.proboards.com.
So, yeah, just we're having seen Wrath since the beginning, we're now going for one of the biggest.
One of
maybe
the
not
payoffs.
the biggest, but one of the biggest goals. Can you achieve this?
Wow, one of the biggest events in Wrath is taking place right before.
Yeah,
us
well,
with the
pretty
dragon.
much, the big to do about Wrath is, I wouldn't say happening, but could happen. It's it's at your doorstep.
Yeah.
It all depends on how the game goes, obviously.
So what are you looking forward to in season 3?
I am looking forward to everything that you guys said and so much more. I'm looking forward to finally seeing some things come into the light. I'm looking forward to being able to bring in, again, like you said, you're going into Lowwater now. I'd say of all the areas, I think we have spent the most time developing Lowwater over a lot of other areas. Obviously, I have lots of areas developed that haven't even been, played at all, but role-playing wise and game time wise, Lowwater has probably the most.
Either Lowwater or Fort Gradamir.
Yeah, those two are definitely have the richest gameplay time. So it's hard to 100% really make a area of any world really truly living until you've played it. In my opinion, you know what I mean. You can stat out everything, but it's not alive till you've actually lived it. You know what I mean.
Even reading the stuff, knowing the stories of Fort Gradamir, actually being there and talking to Kaelin, was that there?
Kaelana.
Kaelana. And having as a character out of the game, going, I remember reading about her. She really screwed up with Gaia. Gaia. So
like low water again is like one of the most developed areas, like game time wise. So like it will be fun to play in there. There's some important NPCs there. They're not like powerful NPCs, but there's some important NPCs there. Not just for low water, not just for the island of fucking the Isle of Raylan, but for Merizian and all of Wrath. I have some interesting threads that will be dangling there to see. I don't know what you guys might be pulling on. Of course, like how season 2 ended with was, like, well, I mean, you've been kind of directed, like, go find the Land of the Dead. So again, that's a big, if you guys get there, that could be a huge payoff. That's been in the works for forever, like one of those names that's kind of thrown out there, and like, we'll see if anyone ever gets there. But to save Roger, so that would be like a big, huge stepping stone towards the whole dragon storyline if you actually are able to find and free the key.
Yeah.
So
Disappointed, Jared. You could have just looked at the camera and just said, "I look forward to challenging you to death."
well, you're going to the Land of the Dead, so there'll be death is all around us.
The smell of death around us.
I think we can kind of combine the last two questions into a single one. What's your favorite thing about Darkhounds, and is there anything you would add or change about the game? Does anybody want to volunteer to go first?
I haven't gone first on anything, so I'll go. Here we go.
Okay.
My favorite thing about the game is, even though it is a huge burden to have a camera in my face, and all of our faces, actually one of the things I like most, I think, about this game is the fact that, like we kind of touched on earlier, the fact that there is a camera in our face, and the fact that we know that people will be watching this, is...
It definitely gives a different focus.
It's upping our games in some areas. I'm not going to say all areas. I don't think it's upping like every area of the game or role-playing. There are definitely some areas where like we've decided like these are less important aspects, so let's just shove those over to the side. Yeah. So it's kind of, I guess, actually a good way of putting it is it's forcing us to kind of cut some of the fat. You know what I mean? Like, we're showing our abs a little bit. Like cutting some fat. Like, okay, well, we don't need to spend 3 hours working on this, doing a combat just to show off that we have these powers, but we can focus more on these role-playing. We're having a lot of internal thought on character development. Stuff that, while might be common in a lot of games, also is very uncommon in a lot of games. I see a lot of games where you sit down and like, my character does this and this and this and this. Well, yeah, but what's their name? Oh, yeah, name whatever, John Smith. Okay, well, what's their backstory? Like, I don't know. His parents don't like him. They kicked him out. All right, cool. But I'll let me hit some things.
See, very close. That's my favorite thing about Darkhounds as well. And I've said it, I think, to everyone here at some point, and it's really changed my role-playing game. Somewhere with this game, even though I've been role-playing for, 25 plus years, something with this game just clicked, and I realized I wasn't role-playing right. Not that there's a wrong way to do it, but the way that I approached it was really off. And that's carried over into our other games. New characters that I'm playing. I'm having a whole newfound love of role-playing like I've never had before.
If you could play your Rakshasa forever, you would. I know you would.
It's a fun character. It's really fun to mess with, Mila, but... But as far as my favorite thing, I love how this group has given us a platform where I can feel comfortable enough to do that. Because my role-playing game, I feel, and some people would probably argue, I feel like my role-playing game is by far the worst of everyone in the group. You guys are incredible role players, all of you. And being able to have that confidence and that comfortableness with all of you has really kind of helped bring out that ability to role play more and have a lot of fun with it. So that's probably my favorite thing about Darkhounds. I mean, this might be a little cliche, but the people are good.
Right.
I'll say for one of my favorite things for Darkhounds, it's a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff that doesn't get on the camera. To really have a game where, I'll have 3 different conversations with a DM between sessions about just my character's mindset, and talk about what they're doing. Adam's artwork has been amazing, and I got the chance to actually sit down with Adam to talk about the new drawing for Tristan. So rather than just like...
We haven't even touched on the art aspects.
Yeah. So we actually sat down and Adam's like, I've got some ideas for him, and he showed him, and I'm like, that's all going very fightery, which is what I originally wanted to do, but he's going the other direction.
Yeah.
So we had to go right from scratch, and that the picture of Tristan's that Adam came up with is great. I mean,
yeah, thank God for Jared and Adam putting stuff together, because I know the descriptions that I've given for Mizr has been junk.
Yeah.
And Adam has just worked gold with my horrible stuff that I've given him. So,
but and also just being able to get feedback on what I'm doing. Here's what I think. Let's see how we can twist it. Just that very open communication and talking with different people about the relationships between the characters and what's going on there and all that stuff. All that behind the scenes stuff of that very open communication to actually build something on camera that gives it that strong foundation.
Yep, definitely.
And I will also say if you could add or change about the game, and I know we can't do this, but I would love to play shorter sessions more frequently.
Yeah.
Because of scheduling right now, we have to do these really long sessions that then get broken up into multiple episodes. I would like to do shorter sessions more often, just to help keep the momentum that we get.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really get on what I would change, but again, in a perfect world, that would be like I would love to play like a weekly game in a perfect world. Like if we could all be getting paid for this, where we could just say like instead of me instead of us recording once a month and then chopping it into a weekly episode, actually just playing a weekly episode. Like we've said several times, even if the episode was 2 or 3 hours long, if we were playing every week, who cares? You know what I mean? Like that would be the dream. That would be the ideal, in my opinion. So we can keep that momentum, because what happens every time, and which I've said before to several of you is like we play, I get super excited, I have a ton of ideas, I try to make a bunch of notes so that way I can not lose what I'm thinking. And then the next week I'm like, all right, now I got to work on this stuff. Oh, well, I still have a bunch of stuff. I have to actually edit all the episodes. I got to do this, I got to do that. And then I start like, well, I got to prioritize. Let me get all this stuff done. Let me get all this out of the way. And then the next thing I know, it's like, oh, well, we're playing again in a couple days. And then all of a sudden it feels like a hassle because I'm no longer super excited. Just got done cutting all this stuff. Like, all right, well, what was I working? Okay, well, I remember a bunch of this stuff. Let me look at my notes, see if I forgot anything. It's gotta be tough
for you to be fired up with all the editing and everything. It just has to seem like work.
And then like last night, I got to make sure and write these scripts out real quick for tomorrow. I had a bad week, so I didn't get as much stuff done as I wanted to get done. And then it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, oh, I gotta get up. I saw a message from JR saying he was gonna, he had to get some energy drinks, and I'm like,
wake up, folks.
Like I'm not gonna lie, like there was a small, tiny little part of me, like 1% probably, that was just like, maybe he'll just cancel and I can just go back to sleep.
Not me. You'll never get that from me.
And then I'm like, but then like then it'll be another month before we get together, and it's already been so long, and I was gonna say, so yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, playing every week would be awesome. That would be the preferred, being able to again like keep that momentum, because like I was saying about I woke up and like, oh man, I kind of almost wish he would cancel so I could go back to sleep.
Well,
that's fine.
It has to seem like, it has to become almost work for you. For us, it's still the game, and we can have a lot more fun. Yes, sure, camera makes it a little bit like you're not going to cancel as much. You're really, at least for me, I'm going to bust ass to be here, no matter how tired I am or what's going on. But there are times for you, it's got to seem like just hard work.
I'm doing like every aspect of it. You know what I mean? Like I'm DMing it. I'm also filming it, editing it, compositing it. I spend a lot of time compositing it all, and then a lot of time editing it all. Yeah, exactly. Like I'm doing like 3 or 4 people's roles worth of work.
In a perfect world, we'd finish recording in our dedicated studio. The information would already be uploaded to the server on the 6th floor, where the editing team works.
Yeah. I mean, in a perfect world, it would be like we'd be the talent. Yeah. I'd show up, the set would be ready to go. We'd sit down. I would still have to obviously do all my DM prep and all that stuff, but we'd sit down, we'd play, and that would be the end of my obligation, kind of thing. But like my work is never done, kind of deal, and that's fine. Like I enjoy all the aspects of it. Well, I don't really enjoy the editing part. The compositing part
editing sucks.
I enjoy the editing part, like watching the video and like trying to like make I can't not watch this because like there could be a part where I'm like
that has to be in there. That's
like there's a part where like I forgot we said some things that shouldn't be on here, or I forgot that there was a part where like I had to get up and fix my shirt, or like JR had to run out to the bathroom for a second, or whatever like so. I find that tedious. Like, it's not that I love watching, I will watch the final product, but I hate getting to the final product. The compositing part of, like, green screening everything out and all that stuff, like, I love that part. I would do that as a job, but, even though it's sometimes frustrating, because, again, I'm trying to make things do things it's not supposed to do, but I still enjoy the challenge, so I like the journey. I'm enjoying the journey, but yes, there's so much journey on so many different levels that there are definitely days where I'm just like, I want to go hang out with my friends, but I'm going to be doing this.
Yeah, well, you'll never see me cancel unless I'm friggin' sick as hell.
Yeah, no matter, like, any given time, if I'm doing X, I always feel like I should be doing Y. But I'm like, well, I have to do X, but I feel like I should be doing Y. But, well, I really need to be doing J.
Yep.
Well, what's all this for if I can't have a good game? Like, like, I spend more time working on the post than I do working on the pre. I'm like, so every day I'm just like, man, how can we make this series more successful? Oh, well, if I could get more time to put into making the game itself better, like, that's the root of all evil right there. If the game's not good, nothing else is going to be good. But I spend so much time also working on just chopping it down and making it a watchable thing that I'm just like, why aren't there 3 of me?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, again, that's what I would change. But but from the game standpoint, that's like kind of like the production of Darkhounds. From the game standpoint, I think the only thing that I would like, there are a few things that I am planning on changing. I've learned a lot from season 1 to season 2. Again, not just from you guys, you're kind of like getting used to playing in front of a camera, but it's just focusing on different aspects. For me, running a game in front of a camera is a different ball game. You know what I mean? Like, season 1 had a lot of combat, which is a little bit more like my standard, like, having the D20 Pro running and like, okay, well, when in doubt, throw a combat out.
That is definitely one thing that I hope to see changed, is some of the D20 Pro, or some kind of a method like that.
Yeah, and I will be using D20 Pro most likely, but, and then season 2 was an overcorrection of like, like really almost no real combat.
Yeah.
Pseudo-esque combat-like encounters, but no true like D20 pulling out the map, token-based combat encounters. So season 3, I think I'll be able to find like the nice balance between the two.
Yeah.
So outside of what I have control over and my plans for season 3, the other thing that I would say is just like I look forward to and hope to see more, like, just again like we talked about, like more role playing between the 4 of you, more encounters where I can just sit back and go,
Go.
You're on.
Paint me a picture.
Because I feel like I talk more than I, in Darkhounds, more than I normally do when I'm DMing, and more than I would prefer to do. But again, because we're recording and there's a camera in front of us, I try to avoid like a lot of dead air. So I start pushing things along, like, no one's going to say anything? Okay, well then we're going to go do this.
Yeah.
Okay, well we're going to go do that. Okay, well then this person comes in. Okay, well then this NPC comes in. Okay, then we're going here. Nothing? Okay, then we're gonna go do this. I feel more like, there are definitely times where I'm like, I almost feel like I'm narrating a story to you than like we're role playing, which I hate.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, man, I almost feel like I would watch this and go, this guy fucking sucks. This guy's a horrible DM. Like, fucking let your players do your shit. So, in season 3, you'll see more of me stepping back, and if I have to cut out some dead air, we have to cut out some dead air. And if we have a session where we don't accomplish as much, then we don't accomplish as much. But I want to try to give you more space. So even if it takes 5 or 6 minutes of like, I don't know.
We'll get there.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So, so you'll see that again. But I won't like hang you guys out to dry either. Like if you guys like, I honestly don't know. Like, okay, well then we're moving. Then an NPC comes in. Okay, then we're moving on. Then we're gonna go here.
All right, Jared's talking off.
I do that.
I don't know. So favorite thing about Darkhounds? Anything you'd add or change?
I think going along with what JR said, I like how we've kind of all created this bond at this table. I really feel
absolutely.
like, and that's spread outside of the table because I'm trying to think. We knew you.
Yeah, you met me through Cheyenne's game.
Yeah.
Or I should say I met you guys. Yeah, that one game where I was just like, these guys are like in that one. Sorry, Cheyenne. Wretched game. I saw these 2 gems, and I was like, I'm stealing them.
Yeah. Fantastic role playing. I do have to say.
That was funny because I was like, that's the only time Jared actually even met us. and saw us role play.
Yeah.
So that must have been our audition.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So we didn't even know you guys, and yeah. I mean, I consider you guys like some of my best friends at this point. So it's pretty awesome.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
I mean, with everything going on in real life,
whatever.
it's hard to find those times, those groups to be able to do those kind of things. I know my wife, who of course isn't part of any of this,
We have invited
become
her.
amazing friends with you guys as a result of really this game and what's become of it too. So.
And
we were
Warhammer
trying to
helped a little bit with that.
Warhammer did
For
help as
season
well,
two.
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, after 20 years of role playing, 30 years of role playing, I mean, you sit down, you play one session with some, like, not everyone's on every session, but if they're even having a remotely decent night, they stand out. You know what I mean? Especially like the worse the game is, but the better the player is, the more they stand out. You know what I mean? Like that game was. I'm sorry, Cheyenne. Like, I love you, but, like, that was a wretched fucking game. Like, I wanted to fucking shoot myself in the face the whole time. My character literally spent the whole night like, I'm a statue. That was the joke. I showed up with a life cleric thinking, like, oh, they don't have a cleric, I'll bring a healer. And they didn't need me. I wasn't
a statue.
And, like, I wasn't really a combatant. You know, like, I'm just there to keep people alive, but they didn't need anyone to keep them alive. Plus, Shane had just made a druid who could also heal. So I'm just like, my joke was just, like, forcing my own fun into the game, like, I'm a statue.
Well, there was that room we walked into where, like, we all had to, like, hide, not move, and you're just like, I'll just be a suit of armor by the door.
Yeah, because I'm a dwarf in full plate with, like, a 20 constitution, just like, I'll make con checks if you want me to make con checks to not move, but, like, I'll pass them.
One other, I don't know if anybody else has noticed this as well, but one minor cosmetic change, I guess, is from season 1 to season 2 that I noticed is we had the ability to start using fast travel. Going to my PC gaming, being able to use the teleportation circles has seemed to focus our storyline a lot more. I think I'd like to see less fast travel, more time.
There will be
forced, especially now that we get into with the
slight spoiler of season 3. You won't be able to fast travel anywhere that you want to go in season 3.
So I know that's going to be coming.
Because you guys were jumping like guild hall to guild hall to this to that to the Feywild, like where it's like, well.
And that made it very focused. But
and that's been a set
of
piece of the game is like these guild halls are connected with teleportation circles. So it wasn't like I was just like, I'm just gonna cheat and throw them there. Like, no, it's a thing anyways. But yeah, you guys are stuck in like. I wouldn't compare this to like the Wild West, but like you're out like more towards the boonies. You're in the one and only town that has the one and only like big guild hall. Like there's not going to be any fast travel. There's sure as hell no fast travel to like, oh, we want to go to the land of the dead. Womp.
No. I remember in season 1 as we were going through the Valley of the Blood, the Temple of Blood, and all the scene of actually getting there. That rigorous weeks of traveling. That was really intense. That was a lot of fun for those sessions. And I know that'll be coming up more. So
I mean, you guys started at level 3.
Yes.
So I mean, like I also feel like as you get into higher levels as a character, which I mean, not everyone plays through to higher levels, but like you do start to see like wilderness travel is more of like it's a young man's game. You know what I mean? Like I have to walk, and then eventually you get horses. Now we can take horses. Okay, and then eventually like we got a hot air balloon or some other sort of faster travel, and like you start seeing your travel time speed up and speed up and speed up. And you guys have kind of experienced like the peak of the high fantasy part of Wrath with the whole like the teleportation circles, because most of Wrath is much more low key on the magic side, even though there is powerful wizards and there's some really crazy magic going on in the world, but the average person sees more of a low magic kind of society. So you guys have kind of experienced like, oh, you guys must be famous. You get these teleportation circles and shit. Jesus.
But as we get into the bowels and areas where the guild halls aren't, I'm sure that'll change a lot too.
Yeah,
so.
That's actually like, even for me as a DM, challenging sometimes, because it's like in the last game you guys had like a 4-month travel back from like the Dwarven Kingdom, but there were a couple little stops on the way, but over like a period, it's like, do I let them role play? Like, naturally, if you're spending 2 months on the road with somebody, you're going to have opportunities, but
you have learning choices. You could say, okay, well, instead of saying like let's role play through every day, you can say let's role play through every week. Okay, so during this week you have like over the course of this 1 week you have this one combat encounter. Most of your nights are uneventful, but you have this one combat encounter. Okay, oh well, you know what? I'm going to just roll, like some people might roll every day, I'm just going to roll 1 a week. Okay, over the course of the next 3 weeks, you only have 1 more combat encounter. And then, on top of beforehand or after the combat encounters, then you can say, okay, well, let's like have some role-playing moment around the campfire after the combat thing. Like, but that's only just one way to approach that. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of hurdles to jump through when it comes to traveling long distances. Again, like when we were lower level, on your game, we took the boat ride, and there was a lot of role playing, and there was a lot of the travel time. Now that we're getting higher level, it's just like whatever. Like if you run across the goblin band, you swat it to the side. Like do we need to role play through that?
I think the hard part is just like constantly people coming in with new characters.
Oh yeah, your game is very unique in that. I actually really like it. It adds a different level that I've never seen in a game, but yeah.
So yeah, to finish up some Darkhounds though.
Back to that.
I will say, just on the subject of changes from Season 1 to Season 2, I appreciate you taking the camera out of mine and JR's laps.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, again,
the new camera is awesome.
If you were actually watching with, like, your phone and headset, or, like, doing, like, the VR kind of thing, for the VR experience, it was much more legit to like have the perspective of a seat. It was like you were sitting at the table, which I even liked the little slogan that like we were trying for a little while, like join us at the table. Like not, hey, you're gonna come play with us, but like you can put on your headset and it's like you're sitting at the table. But unfortunately, due to the way that the perspectives work of the lenses and the way that the 360 cameras are right now, the other side of the table was 3 miles away. The DM was 2.5 miles away, and your guys' lap were -1 mile away. So, like, we have, look, Jerry's lap. Look, JR.
Yeah, I'm sure
there's 3 other players over there. Oh, look, the DM, I think, is saying something.
I'm sure that made for some fun editing moments in Season 1.
So, yeah, so now we're all pretty much equally spaced away. Also gives a better position for me to put like the maps on and stuff like that. Like where the TV's right there, I can just transpose them, the overlays of the maps right there instead of me trying to I was trying to put it on the table, which seemed cool, but again, because of the camera angle, like it was me trying to play with the perspective of things to get it to fit right. But then you're like, well, up here is really big and down here is really small, and you can barely see this token, but that token's big. And
a very positive change that's coming up that I hope to see a ton more. I really like the way you did some of the cutscenes.
Yeah.
Combined with the artwork, I think that is a untouched, awesome resource that we're going to have a lot of fun with.
Yeah, and again, that's me trying to put more pre-production work in instead of all post-production work in. So
definitely.
While I could have still done that all post, I felt it was better for you guys to be able to experience it in the moment. So I think that will be a fun aspect.
Yeah.
Again, more work on my plate, but it'll be fun. And also, it'll give us all an opportunity. I have to be very careful about what I try to farm out, just because I know some of you guys like the concept of like some voice acting.
Yeah.
But I also don't want spoilers, so I have to be very careful about like, well, let's put you in this character's voice, but then I have to be careful about like what I'm letting you pre-record before a game. You know what I mean? So that's going to be kind of tricky.
Oh.
But kind of also kind of fun, but because I can also just get like, here are your lines. Not the scene, but here are your lines. Right. All I know is what my character is saying. Okay. I don't get the context. You don't need another context. You'll see.
My lines are, yes, master. No, master. And, is that a chicken? No, just the way you're holding the melon.
Like, for, pre-ahead cutscenes that I have in my mind, the only, like, real female cutscene that I can think, or a female voiced cutscene I can think of is actually, like, for CERN. So I was going to be like, does Ashley want to take on the role of being the goddess?
Nice.
And record like his dream sequence scene thing. So yeah, I'm gonna get you that soon, and we'll record that.
I mean, I can do all the character voices you want me to do. So
yeah. So yeah, that will definitely be. I've been focusing on like the scripts and stuff and the production work for today, and not the cutscenes for the future. But
we'll get there. Cupcake.
Absolutely
perfect.
Yes.
It's just gonna be audio, but yeah, you can wear it. If that gets you in character, then by Jesus, yes.
So we still need to get to David with your favorite thing about Darkhounds, and what would you add or change?
Okay. Well, I mean, favorite thing about Darkhounds is it's an excuse to play Dungeons & Dragons.
Right?
I mean, that's my absolute favorite thing about it, simply because I enjoy playing. Someone who's deprived of it for so long. He's like,
Yeah, it still blows my mind how you haven't been playing your whole life.
Yeah.
I mean, you just come by it naturally.
2015?
Yeah.
That's when we started? Yeah. Yeah. I'd played...
Actually, probably had really only played maybe 3 games by the time we met Jared.
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every single one of those other games I would play, it was just like a 1 session. Show up. Make your characters. Half your session spent making the characters. Start playing. Da-da-da-da. Okay.
Yeah,
That was fun. Let's do it again.
You're like, yeah, I really only
Well, it
played,
definitely
like, some
helps. I mean,
one-shots,
we've got
basically.
at least all of us have some kind of a theater background as well, and that definitely helps. And
Except Jared.
I saw it play once. That's a background, right?
I love it.
But I've been role-playing for 20 years.
Yeah.
So.
So yeah, that's like, to me, that's the simplest part of it. It's just like, I get to play Dungeons and Dragons again. I mean, yeah, make friends. Got everybody, because of this, now we're all playing Warhammer again. You're welcome. I apologize to your pocketbooks and your bank accounts.
But yeah, I know you haven't played much for other other
Storage
games,
space.
but I know you also watch like Critical Role and stuff like that. So I mean, is there anything that you see in the Darkhounds game that you like? I'm not saying it's better than other stuff, but like, is there anything that stands out that you see?
Well, I appreciate
that
that
you
the
enjoy?
DM lets me get away with a lot of more like story-based like things that would make sense to the character than like some people who are more like, rules is written,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. You can't do that, you can't roll that way, you can't have that, So I'm just like, okay, whatever.
I think
yeah,
that's
as
why I like-
DMs, all of you are very embracing of past stories.
Mm-hmm.
I've always made these elaborate stories in the background that most DMs have just been wasted on.
Yeah.
Being able to do that with you guys is a whole different ballpark.
Just occurred to me that I'm glad that we're not green screening today.
Yeah. I realized that when you walked in.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that would be awkward. Like, I don't even know how that would work with the other colors.
I would see through you.
Certain sections.
It would be like a Stain song.
Oops. Were you intending to green screen?
Well, for the video thing, I can use the blue screen.
I can always turn it around to straight.
Oh no! I have the thing that reverses blue or green. So for you,
Nice.
I can flip it as blue. I just clicked just now. Thank God,
I
like
didn't
we're not
think
green
about
screening
it.
today.
That's funny. Oops.
But yeah, one thing I would add and change about this game, one each. I've already said my change. Spell points. I want spell points.
No.
Spell slots are poo poo.
It's like, no.
No.
No, it's interesting though because I mean, if we had anybody else who would be interested in joining, it's like this is like almost the perfect opportunity to bring like another person or two into it because we're at a new town.
Mm-hmm.
They could be there. It's kind of like this weird little limbo bit where just like it'd be interesting to expand the party a little bit. And
No.
I
say no.
I'm just saying. Like from
The opportunity, yeah.
from a story
point.
perspective,
Yeah.
it's a perfect opportunity to do so. If only we actually had reliable people to jump in.
Yeah.
Well, even with this kind of a setup too, I mean, guest, people for single sessions could possibly happen.
I've toyed with trying to see if Chris might be available to play Bruce for a session
those
or
kind
something
exactly
like that,
those kind of things. Bring back people that instead of you playing Kaylana, whoever played originally,
Candace, yeah.
have her come in for one session to play the original characters.
Which Candace I'd actually talked to about joining us for season 2 originally, and she was interested, but unfortunately she finally realized that she couldn't promise the time to do it. So.
And for anybody who doesn't follow Wrath, the mention of Bruce. Bruce is the first prophet of CERN. He has been operating in Wrath for now like 15 years or so, which his resurrection was like her first miracle.
Right, yeah. He was the first person to have been resurrected in the world in like over like almost 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So like his resurrection was a big deal. But what was funny about his resurrection was it wasn't the atypical resurrection where like normally like, oh well, like Vondale, here's your tooth and you kind of like regrow out of your tooth kind of thing, where the tooth kind of disappears and then turns into Vondale. Like they had his skull because he was beheaded And then all of a sudden Bruce comes over and they're like, or no, not even his skull, it was his head at the time because it was like just happened. And all of a sudden like Bruce like, no, we have his head. You're not really Bruce. We have Bruce's head right here. You can't be Bruce. Like, are you a doppelganger, shapeshifter? What are you? You know, magic illusion? Like, no, like I'm freaking Bruce. Like, we have your head.
Magic.
And his skull is now in as a holy relic. In Lowwater.
Yeah, a holy relic in the church, the first church of CERN, the first new order church of CERN. I forget how it's phrased, but
do the grand temple masters like carve their name onto his skull like every time a new one transfers over?
Yeah, there's a big old skull and a glass case sitting up there in the church, in the town that you just showed up in. So yeah. And Chris was originally the player of that character, and he was resurrected, and he became the first prophet of CERN. And then even on like the wrath.proboards.com, he wrote like the Book of Bruce, like a Bible chapter, like based around his character in CERN.
Funniest, I love.
And he studied theology and stuff for a little while too. So like he actually wrote it like a friggin' like a Bible, like a thing. So it was pretty interesting. It's pretty cool. I love that I have that, and that I didn't have to do it.
Yeah.
I love that I have it, and I love that I didn't have to do it in order to have it.
On there. I mean, it's just a fantastic reading on the Pro Boards. Plug it again, but definitely worth checking out.
All right, so I think that's kind of where we're going to wrap it up. We ran a little bit longer than we were expecting to, but I think we had a lot of good content. We had a lot of fun in Season 2. We've got some stuff coming up in Season 3 that we're all interested and excited for. We're going to see what happens. We're going to see how it develops, and we hope you come along for the ride.
Thanks.
Zang!